There's a quiet, cold satisfaction when you do it, isn't there? When you use one of those neat little psychological tricks to pop someone's ego. You hit them with calculated indifference. You ask that one perfectly aimed question that makes their whole self-image stutter like a scratched record. And for a moment, you feel it. A sense of control, a fleeting taste of power as the loudest person in the room suddenly has nothing to say. I've been there. I've read the books, I've practiced the techniques. I learned to become a ghost in the face of narcissism, an unmovable wall in the face of arrogance. And it worked. But then what? What comes after that moment of silence? What if I told you that focusing on their ego is the very cage that keeps you from building something truly invincible within yourself? What if I told you that every ounce of energy you spend trying to dismantle their fragile little throne is energy you're not spending to build your own unbreakable empire? You see, I discovered a dangerous truth. The game of destroying egos is a trap. It feels like you're winning, but you're still playing on their board, by their rules. You're still reacting to them. Your peace is still dependent on their silence. And the moment you feel that rush of victory from putting someone down, you've admitted that they had power over you to begin with. I know what you're thinking. You came here for weapons. Stick with me, and I'll show you how to build a shield so strong it becomes a weapon in itself. I realized I didn't want to be a master of psychological warfare. I wanted to be a master of myself. I wanted to reach a state of mind so solid, so self-defined, that the egos of others would be like tiny waves breaking against the shore of a continent. They wouldn't even register. That's when I went back to Nietzsche. But I looked past the tactical tricks. I looked for the grand strategy. And I found it. It's not about the Ubermensch as some kind of comic book hero. It's a mindset, a way of forging a self that doesn't need to be defended because it is its own fortress. And I'm going to show you the 3 pillars to building it. Forget about psychological nukes. We're about to become architects of the human soul. The first pillar is the most fundamental. Become your own judge. Think about the most arrogant person you know. What do they crave? Attention, admiration, fear. Their entire identity is a performance for an audience. They need your reaction, positive or negative, to feel real. They're slaves to the perception of others. They've handed the gavel for their self-worth to everyone else in the room. I used to do the same thing, just in a different way. I craved approval. I was terrified of criticism. A single negative comment could ruin my day. A boss's vague disapproval would send me into a spiral of anxiety. My self-worth was a kite, and the world held the string. The first step in building an unbreakable self is to take that gavel back, violently if you have to. It means sitting down in silence and defining your own code of values. Not your parents' values, not society's values, not what Instagram tells you is valuable, your values. What does success mean to you, even if no one ever saw it? What does honor mean to you, even if it made you unpopular? When you know, truly know what you stand for, criticism from someone who doesn't share your values becomes meaningless. It's like a vegan being offended that a lion called their salad unappetizing. The lion is playing a different game. Praise becomes pleasant, but not necessary. It's like a nice bonus, not the salary you depend on to survive. You've become your own source, and a person who is their own source can't be drained by others. But building your own values isn't enough, because life will hit you. And this is where the second pillar comes in, and it's perhaps the most powerful concept I have ever encountered. Love your fate. Nietzsche called it Amor Fati. Let's be honest. A fragile ego shatters at the first sign of failure. It cries, "Why me? This is unfair. The world is against me." It sees every setback as a personal indictment of its worth. Amor Fati is the exact opposite. It's the mindset that looks at every single event in your life, The triumphs, the betrayals, the brutal failures, the moments of heart-wrenching loss, and says, I would not have it any other way. Not just accepting it, loving it, seeing it as a necessary, indispensable part of the beautiful, terrifying tapestry of your existence. I'll give you a personal example. A few years ago, I was publicly humiliated in a professional setting. I made a massive mistake in a presentation, and a person I considered a rival took great pleasure in pointing it out in front of everyone. In that moment, my old ego wanted to crawl into a hole and die. It was a storm of shame and rage. But then I remembered Amor Fati. I took a deep breath, and I forced myself to think. This had to happen. This burning shame is a lesson I could not have learned any other way. This rival is not my enemy. He is my teacher. This moment is forging me. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but in that instant, the power shifted. He didn't break me. He was just a tool that my fate was using to make me stronger. A person who can find value and necessity even in their own suffering is psychologically invincible. How can you insult someone who sees insults as fuel? How can you defeat someone who sees defeat as a necessary step to victory? You can't. They've transcended the game. The first two pillars will make you strong, but it's the third one, the one that almost everyone gets wrong about Nietzsche, that will make you truly free. The third pillar is the one that puts everything into motion. People always misunderstand Nietzsche's will to power. They think it's about dominating other people. That's the primitive, weak version of it. The highest expression of the will to power is to turn it inward against yourself. It is the relentless drive for self-overcoming. An egoist directs their energy outwards. They need to prove they're smarter, richer, or better than the person next to them. It's a constant, exhausting competition. The architect of the unbreakable self directs that exact same energy inward. Their only competition is who they were yesterday. Instead of arguing with that incompetent coworker, you pour that fiery energy into becoming so skilled, so efficient, so valuable that their opinion becomes a whisper in a hurricane. You don't beat them in the argument, you make the argument itself irrelevant. Instead of being jealous of someone's success, you use that envy as a diagnostic tool. It shows you what you desire, and then you channel that desire into a disciplined plan to build it for yourself. You stop fighting people, and you start fighting your own laziness, your own fear, your own ignorance. Every day becomes a new battlefield for self-mastery, and the victories you win there are real. They can't be taken away from you. They are forged into the very fiber of your being. So you see the arc? You start by defining your own reality. Then you learn to love everything that reality throws at you. And finally, you use all your energy to constantly become a better, stronger version of yourself within that reality. When you integrate these three pillars, something magical happens. The need to destroy other egos just dissolves. It seems like a childish, pointless waste of time. You no longer get angry at the narcissist. You feel a kind of detached pity for them, for the slave they are to the opinions of others. You are no longer in their arena. You've built your own universe, and you are its calm, silent, ruling center. This isn't about being cold or emotionless. It's about being the master of your emotions, not their subject. It's about building a foundation so deep and so solid that you become the source of your own validation, your own strength, and your own purpose. A fragile ego is a cracker, making a lot of noise and light, but ultimately vanishing into smoke. The unbreakable self is like the sun. It doesn't need to explode to prove its power. It doesn't scream for attention. It just is. And its gravity quietly, effortlessly shapes everything around it. So forget about the petty satisfaction of popping someone else's balloon. It's a sugar rush that leaves you empty. The real feast, the real power, lies in the slow, difficult, and glorious work of building yourself. The question is no longer, how do I take them down? The question is, what am I going to build? If you're ready to stop playing games and start building your fortress, subscribe to this channel. because in our next conversation, we're going to tackle the single biggest killer of greatness, the fear of what other people think. And we'll learn how to use the weapon of Amor Fati to finally and forever set ourselves free. You don't want to miss it.